Hello, everyone. Those who come on here and watch later, just beware that this is going to be a heavy-hearted topic. Over the last month, there have been a lot of topics about sexual abuse. I see a lot of people come on here and talk about sexual abuse in the entertainment industry, and it's really sad to read about that and hear about that, but it's kind of like you're not really that surprised, and it's sad that people aren't surprised by that anymore, especially with people that are in higher positions. It's really sad. Hey Matt, hope you're doing good. So today I found out about the Louis C.K. Incident. Hey Jessica. And if you don't know much about Louis C.K. And his incident, or his multiple incidents, is that he, I guess, has a problem with public masturbation. And hey Mary Claire. And I read that today and it just really struck a chord with me. So I wanted to get on here. Wow, I have 5 people online. This is crazy. I wanted to get on here and share with you guys, hi Ping, my experience as a child growing up. So the reason Louis C.K. struck a chord with me was because he has a problem with public masturbation and public sexual assault. And given that wasn't necessarily the situation with me, hey Abby, it was very, very similar to what I was exposed to at a very, very young age. So a little backstory on me. I am 30, okay? So the earliest I was exposed to vulgar porn was probably at the age of 11. Around 11 years old. And so kind of put that in perspective in comparison to this day and age. Kids nowadays are getting older a lot younger. And what that means is that they're exposed to a lot of things that kids like me when I was 11 had no clue about. So I just want to give you that background because I didn't have internet. I didn't have internet until I was like probably 13. So my form of entertainment when I was 11 was, hey Karen, was, television, and going out and hanging out with my friends and being around kids that were my age. So I didn't have access to the internet. Adult content, porn, and all that stuff is so readily available to kids nowadays. So at 11, I didn't know really what a dick was. I didn't really know what private parts were. I mean, I knew that they were like private and like, forbidden or whatever. But I was never taught the birds and beads. My childhood, my upbringing wasn't the best. and had a lot of male figures in and out of my life. My father wasn't around, unfortunately. I was with my mother. My mother was very broken and very lost. And so at the age of 11, 1999, my mother married a man named Mario, and I'm not afraid to say his name because it's out there, and I feel like it should be known. And I'm not afraid to. I'm not outing the person, but why should I be ashamed of telling you the full story, right? So my mother married a man named Mario, and later in life did I know that they went to Costa Rica for their honeymoon, and she didn't come back for like 2 weeks, and I found out later in life that evidently he had beaten her and tried to keep her hostage in Costa Rica. And that's a whole nother story I can go into. Do I fault my mother for that? No. But again, that's a whole nother story. So that kind of links to the behavior that happened. Hey, Zaid. Hey, Kareem. That incident kind of links to everything that happened to me growing up with him around. So I think I was 11, maybe I was 9, I'm not really sure. But I was 11, I'm thinking I was 11 when they got married. And this man was very controlling. We went through multiple nights of domestic abuse, of him beating my mother and threatening her life, threatening my life, and going through all the typical brainwash that you would think that people go through with that type of abuse. He was a very abusive alcoholic figure in our life. So we moved to before we moved to Ohio, let me just explain to you some of the things that I went through with him being in my life. I don't know who's here, so if you guys can give me some hearts and likes so I can know who's here, or say hey to me in the chat so I can know who I'm talking to. But some of the things that I experienced as a child, I would say around 11, 12 years old. That's what grade is that? 6th, 7th grade, 8th grade. Hey, Kareem. And I would find Polaroids around the house of my stepfather just naked. I'm 11 years old. I don't know what these are. And I was always a very curious person, curious kid. And I feel like these were left in a way for me to purposely find. Pornography on the TV. He was really obsessed with Barbie dolls. And it still very much triggers me, and is really troublesome. Hey, Kenny. And he would place Barbie dolls in very sexual positions, like their legs being spread wide open and their tops being off, you know, just very inappropriate things that a kid shouldn't have to be exposed to, or anyone be exposed to. That's just horrific. He would come in my room, and because my mother used to work night shift, so my mother would work night shift, and hey Danny, and he would come in my room and, for lack of better words, like cuddle with me, and like, I mean, I don't know, like, this is really hard to talk about, just hold me in a way that was very inappropriate for a child, and tell me that it's okay. Like, it was always like, you're gonna be okay, like putting me in a position that, like, as if I was scared and I was coming to him for comfort. I dealt with that for about a year and a half. As I said before, like, I'm a very curious child. I was a very curious child, and still I am a very curious person. And one time I found a trash bag full of underwear, and all of the underwear was mine. And I was very disturbed with the situation. I never told my mother. I never told anyone, actually. I've told my therapist. So you guys are the first to hear about this. The reason I'm getting on here is mostly because I want you guys to know there are different forms of just shitty sexual abuse, sexual misconduct. So that was just, you know, very odd for me to experience that at a very young age. And not really understanding why, but understanding that it's bad. Bad, why? I didn't really understand. So that was when I was 11, 12 years old. And then my mother and him got a transfer to Cincinnati. And so I was 13. I was 12, I think, when we moved to Cincinnati. And living with him and my mother. My mother was still working night shift. And I was still with him all the time. And, you know, the thing that struck me with Louis C.K. was that he has a problem with public masturbation. And Mario always walked around in his underwear. And it was like, you know, like a brief, like a Speedo type underwear set. And he wore those all the time. And me being 12 years old, 12, 13 years old, that's inappropriate in every sense of way. And as I got older, I knew that it was wrong. Okay, so did I ever tell anyone? No. At that age, was I afraid to tell my mother or to tell anyone? Yeah. Yeah, because in my mind, if I told someone, then it would be bad news. Or I would be faulted for whatever reason. or I was just scared. I was scared. I grew up being scared for anything and everything. So when I went to Cincinnati, there was one night, it was a little bit after we got our first computer. So it was like the internet was a big thing. And like I mentioned before, like the internet wasn't really a thing in our lives until I was 13. So the internet was around, and at the time, the same guy, Mario, would be subscribed to Playboy and Victoria's Secret, and I was exposed to Playboy at a very young age. I didn't know what it was, or I just knew that it was kind of, I'm like, oh, don't look at me, I'm naked, kind of bad. So there were times where I've had to lock myself in the bathroom with butter knives, because I was so afraid that he would come into the bathroom while I was taking a shower. And it wasn't an irrational fear. It was something that happened. Because he would try to open the door, and you can hear when someone is trying to open the door and it's locked. And I don't know how or why I was smart enough to understand that a butter knife would help keep the door closed. But I did that for many, many, many months or weeks. I don't know how long. But that was my defense mechanism. To keep myself safe from a predator, because I thought I was going to get raped. I lived my life every single day in fear that I would get raped. So one day it happened. Okay, so one day I was 13. It was around September. It was around like July or August, because we moved from Cincinnati around September 11th, 2001. After the 9/11 attacks, we moved back to Nashville. So it happened. It happened one night. One night, he asked me to open the Victoria's Secret website, and I was 13, and as you know, I'm pretty technically like savvy, and I've always been since a pretty young age. So I knew how to navigate the web at that point. And he used to drink a lot of tequila, and he drank a lot of Jose Cuervo that night. And this was unfortunately a very common thing for me. I would come home from high school, and my mom would be there maybe 30 minutes, and then she would leave and go to work. She worked at night, and he was there with me, and I was by myself. I lived there by myself as an only kid. So that night, something was just different, and he wanted me to open the Victoria's Secret website. And at this point, I knew what sex was. Okay, I knew what was wrong and what was right. I was 13, going to a new school, got exposed to new things. So I knew that what he was trying to get me to do was wrong. So I played dumb. and said, I don't know how to get to that website. I don't know. And so at that point, he grabbed me from the computer chair. He grabbed me from the chair, and given he was about probably like a 250 pound man, and I'm like a tiny 95 pounds, 100 pounds little girl. So just imagine that weight difference. And again, he's in his t-shirt and his underwear like he always was. And I had just got back from school. My mom had just went to work. And I'm playing dumb because I don't want to be in this situation, and I'm kind of tired of being sexually exploited. So I thought the best thing to do would be to just play dumb. So that didn't work out very well for me. He pulled me from the chair and proceeded to try and rape me. I don't know if the goal was to rape me, but it was either to rape me or to kill me. And it was, I want to bear you the details, but because it's pretty bad. But he grabbed me, pinned me on the ground, and proceeded to bash my head on the ground in every attempt to knock me unconscious. And this is probably 4:30 in the afternoon. Like I said, just got home from school. I'm in high school at this point. I was in 8th grade. So I was just 13, about to be 14. I probably was 14 when this happened. I think I was in 8th grade. Either way, so he's doing everything that he can to knock me unconscious. And in my mind, I think the end result is to be able to rape me. So I do everything I possibly can to get out of the situation. Screaming, yelling, whatever you think you can do to get anyone's attention. And he had put his fingers down my throat to maybe try to, I guess, gag me or something so I couldn't scream, and bash my head into the ground multiple times. I'm surprised my nose wasn't broken. It wasn't broken. But I probably passed out for a couple minutes. I'm not sure. But at one point, and also the back of my head, like smashing his face with my head. So my entire back of my head was full of blood. And so I don't know how I had the strength to even stand up or to even say I need water, but in my mind I thought the best way to get out of this situation was to say I need water. So I don't know how long I was struggling, but at one point I was able to convince him and say I need water. And the way that our apartment, the way the apartment was set up was that there was a long hallway with my bathroom and then my mother's like master bedroom and the bathroom in the back there. So I managed to get away. I managed to like get him to take me to the back of the apartment to get water. And as soon as he let go of me, I was able to escape and get away from him, and then run down the hallway, grab my dog at the time, my dog Minnie. I grabbed my dog. We lived on the 3rd floor. Grabbed my dog, ran downstairs, and then ran across the apartment complex. Bloody nose, bloody face, bloody head, bloody hair. All of it. Ran all the way across the apartment complex to my friend's apartment. Screaming, of course. So you can imagine anyone and everyone that has saw me. So my friends got the police involved and took me to the hospital. And I got, immediate care at the hospital, etc. And the police found him and put him in jail for, I think, 6 months. And having to relive that situation time and time and time again was horrific. Having to go to court and tell the story over and over and over again was horrific. Going to school, kids are mean. Kids spread rumors. Going to school and having to deal with kids being mean to me and saying, my father hated me and my father wanted to kill me. Having to deal with that for however many months I was still in Ohio before I moved back to Nashville was horrific. And the first thing, this is going more into like my relationship with my mother, but the first thing that my mother told me or said to me while I was sitting there in the hospital bed with an IV and everything attached to me was, "Why are you lying to the police? Why are you telling them this? Some kid beat you up. It wasn't Mario. Why are you lying?" So my mother's really shitty. I tried to forgive her a long time, especially after knowing what happened to her when they were in Costa Rica on their honeymoon, and he basically did the exact same thing to her that he did to me, and completely brainwashed her. But I just wanted to get on here and talk to you guys about sexual abuse and how it's not always very transparent. And to always listen to someone if they tell you that they've been sexually abused. This shit is like continued in my life for a very long time. I'm 30. This was 17? No. This was 17 years ago. Hey, Camille. This was 17 years ago, and this still affects me. And I just want you guys, especially since I know that maybe my young nieces and nephews may watch this. Sexual abuse is real, and sexual abuse shouldn't be accepted in any kind of way. And I'm not getting on here for you guys to feel sorry for me. I've been through my own therapy, and I've been through my own shit, and I'm doing okay. And I feel like sharing my story is is the strongest thing that I can do for anyone else. Being brave enough to talk about it and be open, because a lot of people are ashamed of it. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault being a 11-year-old kid, being exposed to sexually positioned Barbies, being a target of saved underwear. It's so fucked up, right? Being exposed to pornography and things like that, it's just not right. And I want people to know that it's okay to talk about it. And if you're ever exposed to it or feel like you're in a position that's wrong, please never be afraid to talk about it. And today I realized something. I realized that I've been so used to sexual abuse. I've been so just accustomed to it, and just somewhat expectant of it. And the person I'm with now, I was very just confused about why there wasn't much like sexual attention or sexual like coming on to me a lot, you know. And I guess it was just something that I was just really used to with any other person I've dated, and it shouldn't be that way, right? So yeah, I just wanted to get on here and talk to you guys about sexual abuse and how it's not always so obvious, and it happens to a lot of people. And hey, Chris, and I wanted to share my story with you because my story may not be typical. It may be typical. This may happen all the time. And just seeing the shit in the entertainment business, it's just like not very like unexpected, but it shouldn't be unexpected. People deserve respect.